Well, welcome back, everybody. It's time for episode 255 of Fine Music. That's right. The numbers just keep rolling along because there just seems to be no end to this music thing. Right, Fred?
Right.
Take it away,
Uh,
sir.
this week, talking about two brand new releases. One just came out this week from a band from the 60s, the Blues Project.
Oh, yes.
They have an album called Evolution. This is their first album in almost 50 years.
Ooh,
The Blues
There's
Project?
only two band
that's
members
right.
left
Wow.
in the group.
Mm,
Steve Katz, who
the
plays
legendary.
guitar and does some vocals, and Roy Blumenfield on drums. The group once had Al Cooper and Danny Kalp on
Mm.
lead guitar, who played fantastic lead guitar. And they only put out two albums in that with that lineup. And they reformed a couple of times with different lineups, recorded a couple of albums in the 70s with Danny Kalp. And they were okay. They were pretty good. He wasn't at his best sometimes on those albums. Unfortunately, he died. And Steve Katz, I guess last year, got together with Roy and started forming a new blues project. And it features Chris Morrison on guitar and Ken Clark on keyboards, Colin Linden on slide guitar. What ties this album with the 60s group is a jazzy tune called Peru, which features flute as the lead instrument, and it was taken off an old cassette that they had from the original band, and they re-recorded the song. It was never released before. It was supposed to be a follow-up to Flute's Thing, the 9-minute flute piece that the original Blues Project had done. There is a song on this album written by Al Cooper called Inside Information. That ties him in with the old band. And it's a shame that they didn't have Al Cooper guest star on a few vocals on this album, because his releases over a decade ago have been strong and soulful. It would have been a great tie-in with the 60s, but the spirit of the album is sort of early 70s blues, classic blues rock. And they have a country rock tune called Play Little Fiddle. And Evolution opens up, the title song opens up the album. And then there's a reprise of that title tune that closes the album. It's a good album if you like classic blues rock and you're a fanatic of the Blues Project and you collected all those Verb folk cast albums and the Capitol albums and the MCA album, live album at Central Park, and you want more of them, this is the place to go to. Evolution by Blues Project. The
Uh,
other release that came
okay, go
out
ahead.
last week is by the Clientele, their ninth album. This is their 10th album, actually, and their first release since 2017. And it's a beautiful album. It's over close to 70 minutes of music. And it's called I'm Not There Anymore. And it's memories of childhood, memories of bittersweetness of life. Uh, the first song is Fables of the Silver Link. It starts out with a familiar sound and the fans will love, but then it goes into something new. And this whole album is just like that. It's incredible progressive chamber pop, psychedelic, dreamy album, and they really deliver on this album. It just takes their sound that's always grabbed me and expands it wildly. And some writer tried to connect it with the Zombies, Odyssey, and Oracle from the 60s. And someone even compared it to some work of Donovan and some other psychedelic, dreamy type albums that came out in the 60s. They really, it's lush, 19 tracks, and you never get bored. For me, I never got bored listening to it. It's sonically adventurous. French horns, strings, cello show up, mellotrons, drums, even played backwards on a song. Like I said, Fables of the Silver Link, 8 minutes long. And it just unwinds, just beautiful, musically beautiful. Psych pop. Lady Gray's another standout cut. Village, it's dreamy, impressionistic. Garden Eye Mantra is a trip in itself. And they've really delivered on this album. It's an exceptional piece of work, sonically adventurous, and I would say it's a musical treasure chest to open up for your ears. So I would say take a try with it if you've never heard this group. If you're a fan of them from years ago, this is an album to go to. It'll really take you to some new places.
Thank you, Fred. You know, you said that Clientele have been accused of sounding like Donovan or the Zombies. For the uninitiated, are there any groups that you would equate to Blues Project to, or if someone is totally uninitiated?
I forget what the critics have compared them to recent groups. There were a few like Bell and Sebastian came out of that whole era of that kind of
well, it can be something,
psychedelic pop
from that
sound.
time too, if there's anything more famous.
Oh,
I said a bad word. Sorry about that. Like, would you compare them to the Blues Breakers?
let's see.
No, not really, right?
No.
No. Okay.
Have you heard them, Spencer, at all?
I've heard of them. Blood, Sweat, and Tears, the early work of Blood, Sweat, and Tears might be a good comparison.
No, I'm talking about the Clientele. Have you heard
never mind.
Yeah.
Never? Yeah, they've got, this is their 10th album.
Clientele.
Kind of like them.
I think I'm going to take Spencer's advice there, though, and say if you like Blood, Sweat, and Tears, you might know it's the Blues Project.
Yeah.
I really like the early work of Blood, Sweat, and Tears.
Early BS&T.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's what I was looking for. You know, because we've been sometimes forgetting to do those analogies, and it really helps people make a decision whether to explore that particular kind of music if you can compare it to something else. All right, on that happy note, we thank you, Fred, for completing 255.